Talk about some of the successes you've had with the major food companies and what the reaction was when you started taking them on.
Chick-fil-A was one of the first ones that I took on. I wrote a blog post called Chemical Filet or Chick-fil-A. There was close to 100 ingredients in the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. The company actually reached out to me, invited me to their headquarters, and started to make some changes and improvements to their product. It's still not perfect, and it has a lot of room for improvement, but that was the first step for making me realize that I had a voice and that I could change the food industry. And then from there, I took on Kraft macaroni and cheese, one of the most iconic meals in America, and I asked them to remove artificial food dyes. They were already not using artificial food dyes in Europe because in Europe there's a warning label if you use an artificial food dyes that says may cause adverse effects on activity and attention in children. Right. And they were putting dyes in their mac and cheese here in the United States. We got that out. We got a chemical out of Subway bread called azodicarbonamide. It's a chemical you find in yoga mats and shoe rubber. Subway was not using this chemical in all these other countries. The rubber that you find in yoga mats was found in the buns at Subway. And you said, hey, can you take the rubber out? Yeah, well, you know, if you turn a yoga mat sideways, you see evenly dispersed air bubbles. Well, it was doing the same thing in bread. This was a chemical that when it's heated, it turns into a carcinogen. Wow. It does not belong in our food. It's definitely not eating fresh.
Did you know that our chicken is dunked in chlorine? Did you know that unless your chicken is labeled as air chilled, that when it is killed, it is dunked in a water bath that has chemicals in it to keep the water sterile, and it can absorb 12% of its weight without having to be reported as water added. So when you go and you thaw your chicken, and all that water comes out, that's not just because it was in the freezer. That is because there's water added into the chicken with chlorine and other chemicals in it that absorbs into the meat of your chicken and then runs out when you thaw it. And that's why sometimes chicken feels stringy. I'm looking at you, Costco. So if you're trying to eat organic, antibiotic free, you don't just need to look for an organic label. You need this. You need the air chilled that is not chilled with any of those chemicals. And I wouldn't have known any of this if I hadn't started buying my meat from a local processor, and the guy talked to me about it and he educated me on how our meat is processed in this country, and the answer is with a lot of chemicals that they don't tell us about.
All right, not the McDonald's fries. Really, Andy, McDonald's fries are so addicting, but this is really bad. Check this out.
US, there's 11 ingredients. In the UK, there's 3, and salt is optional. An ingredient called dimethylpolysiloxane is an ingredient preserved with formaldehyde, a neurotoxin. This is Skittles. Notice the long list of ingredient differences. 10 artificial dyes in the US version and titanium dioxide. This ingredient is banned in Europe because it can cause DNA damage. Artificial dyes are made from petroleum, and products containing these dyes require a warning label in Europe, and they have been linked to cancer and disruptions in the immune system. My name is Vani Hari, and I only want one thing. I want Americans to be treated the same way as citizens in other countries by our own American companies.
I mean, honestly, this is common sense, right? It's like, why the heck are we eating all these chemical dyes and other countries are literally banning them? The funniest thing is 10 years ago when Fireball was really big, like Fireball, the alcohol, like whiskey shot, someone told me that the same Fireball wasn't allowed inside Europe. They had to change it because there was an ingredient in there that was similar to an ingredient in antifreeze, basically a poison that we put inside of our cars to cool the car engine down. And so Europe wouldn't allow that until they removed that ingredient. Crazy to me. And that was 10 years ago. So finally, we're catching up.
Food is extremely different out there. Like there's not like the chemicals, the chemicals that create the preservation and the shelf life, you know, the food coloring that cause the cancers and the inflammation in the body and the sickness. They have such high standards that the government does not allow it. Yet our government here gives us the least standards when it comes to food, right? They give us the crappiest foods, they give us the crappiest ingredients, which cause like the inflammation. It's causing the sickness and the autoimmune problems. And as a result, the hospitals and medications are through the roof. So Big Pharma gets to make all the money.
Y'all ever wonder what it's like to shop at a European grocery store? I'm gonna show y'all what it's like in Romania. Well, for real, you gotta pay money to use one of these carts, which I'm not doing. But what you can do is get one of these rolling carts for the free ski. And once you get your fruit, you actually have to go on this monitor and find what you're looking for. It'll weigh it out and give you a price for how much your fruit costs. And when you get to the bread, you gotta be cautious and eat this within the first 2 days because they don't have any preservatives in them, and they will get mold if you don't eat them. This is something else that I find interesting out here, is that the milk is not refrigerated, but the yogurt is. I don't know the science behind it, but this is my go-to right here. And y'all, they do have Doritos out here, but they don't got the 1,000 flavors like they do back at home. They just got about like 4 main flavors. And this is the other part of the grocery store. It's like a mini Walmart for real, minus the electronics, but I'm not going all the way down there because I don't need anything. And you can either go to somebody to check out your groceries, or you can do it yourself. So these are all of the groceries that I purchased at the grocery store, and it totals out to about 426 lei, which equates to about $93 USD. For all of my Americans, what do y'all think? Too high, too low?